Hey, what's going on, good people? Welcome to Russ Can Fly. Man, you never know what's gonna happen.
Oh my goodness, Russ Can Fly.
Okay, so I was coming out here. I was gonna be a good Boy Scout, you know, and it's like getting ready to come and fly with Vanessa, come in the airplane, you know, do some more instrument stuff, because, you know, I'm really trying to make this instrument rating thing happen. And so I'm on my way out to the airport, and I wanted to come early because a couple things I needed to do. One, I needed to update my databases in my airplane, number one. But number two, the other thing that I needed to do is I needed to get some fuel. And so I figured what I would do is I would come on out, pull Charlie out of the hangar, and, you know, go on, get some fuel, and, you know, and then bring my computer with me, and, you know, hopefully go over to the FBO at Doylestown and, you know, take the chip out, update my databases, all of that kind of stuff. So by the time Vanessa and I were supposed to fly, I would have, you know, kind of knocked the rust off of my stick and rudder skills, updated my databases, because I always try to make sure that those are in fact updated. Get some fuel, because I always want to make sure that she feels comfortable with the fuel that we have, and then just have a general sense of, you know, everything with Charlie is good. But then that happened. Yes, so there is a complete ground stop at Doylestown right now. Nobody is able to fly, and in fact there's a NOTAM, and that's why making sure that you check your NOTAMs, you know, is key. Because if you were fuel starved or something, you were coming out here, you would not be able to land, because as you can see, there is a crane on the runway, basically taking a airplane off the runway because it has basically come off the runway. I will leave the, you know, crash recreation and reporting to channels that do a much better job than mine, like Juan Blancalario, and, you know, Pilot Debrief, because that's not my forte. That's not what I do. They do a much better job. They're good at it. But the only reason why I'm even talking about this is that, one, talking specifically about NOTAMs and making sure you take care of that, because that's one of the checklist items that you have to do before you fly, right? That new craft, NWKRAFT, believe it stands for NOTAMs. And like, K is known ATC delays, which I guess can include NOTAMs. The N, NOTAMs, known ATC delays, runway lengths, that kind of stuff. Alternatives for the A, you know, like if you can't land here, what are your alternatives? Craft being runway length, R being runway length, F being fuel, that kind of stuff, and then T, takeoff and landing distances. And so as you can see here, there's somebody checking the runway here just to make sure that everything is good. But yeah, right now that airplane is basically right off of runway 23. Now I'm not exactly sure what happened. I could see on the other side of the runway that it looks like that the landing gear was collapsed. And so it's definitely not clear, but from this side, it looks like, you know, that landing gear on the other side of the airplane collapsed. Now, I don't know if that happened when they were coming in. And so just as a reminder, this is runway 23 coming this way, and then coming that direction is runway 5. So given the fact that the airplane is pointing this way, and you can see that the wind is favoring runway 23, it looks like it's coming right down the runway here. I speculate that basically this airplane was coming in on runway 23, and, you know, who knows what happens. But like I said, when you're on the other side, and I'm gonna go to the other side of the airport because, you know, I wanted to get this perspective, but it looks like the right landing gear on the other side either collapsed or didn't deploy properly. And one of the things that's important to know is I believe that aircraft that aircraft is not too far away from my hangar. I believe that airplane is hangared here, and I believe it's like an amphibian type of aircraft. Like it can float on water. It's kind of like a boat with wings. I mean, you can't see it from here, but up top there is the prop, for the engine. So it's actually at the top as opposed to in the front. So I think it's some sort of amphibious aircraft. Really not sure, but yeah. So there is a full ground stop. As I'm taping this video, it's 10:30, and so there's a NOTAM for this airport. There's a NOTAM for Doylestown right now, and the airport is closed until noon. And it'll be interesting to see if they're able to, get the aircraft, off of the runway. So the most important thing here is, I pray that everyone is okay. And like I said, I don't do accident videos because I just don't, that's not my forte. I'm not good at it. But I've just prayed that everyone's okay. But I'm really here to kind of talk about, one, pilots, please be careful out there. Make sure your aircraft is in good working order. When in doubt, please stay on the ground. I know I'm dying to fly myself. It's almost been a couple weeks just because of the weather and working and all the other craziness that's going on. And so I'm dying to fly as well. But yeah, when in doubt, let's keep these airplanes on the ground. And hopefully everything will be okay. But the other thing is, I want to be clear. Before you set your sights on an airport, make sure you check the NOTAMs, because the worst thing that can happen is you have flown cross country, you're tired, you have flown 3.5, 4 hours only to get here and you can't land because the airport is closed, and you can't land here, and you didn't think about alternatives. So as you can see, they're beginning to hoist the airplane off of the runway with this big crane. It'll be interesting to see like how it all plays out in the end, but you can definitely see that it's a heavy job. They got a big crane out there, and again, I can't really see if there is like what's going on with the landing gear or anything like that, and query as to what they're going to do in terms of then once they've like hoisted it up, are they going to tow it? I don't know how any of that works. I do see that the left landing gear appears to be fine. The right landing gear looks like it's down. And again, you can see that it's an amphibious aircraft. Doesn't look like there's any damage. It just looks like there was like a runway, I guess you would call it incursion, where you kind of come off the runway. And at this point, you can see that they have unhooked the crane from the aircraft. The crane is actually beginning to turn now, and the aircraft is no longer being supported by it. So it looks like the airplane is now sitting on its own landing gear, and appears to be fine. So again, I'm sure somebody will reach out to Mr. Juan Blancalario, and give him some more of the details. He'll probably be able to look at the ADSB data and all of that kind of stuff to get a sense of like where it was coming from, if it was in the pattern or if it was doing some other things or whatever. And like I said, I got here pretty much afterwards. And, the only reason why I even knew about this is because my CFI's here. She was probably supposed to be training with other students. And, and basically it's just this big ground stop. And usually I wouldn't be out here at this time, because this is really, my flights are usually not until the afternoon. But again, I was only coming out here because of the fact, that I wanted to get some seat time before my flight instruction, was supposed to happen. But yeah, I came out here. Vanessa let me know that this aircraft had, had gone off the runway, and that there was a full stop. And so again, I'll just kind of keep that in the background. I don't know what they're necessarily going to do next, but yeah, these are the things that happen in aviation. And again, this is the thing that I, definitely don't like. And again, you will never see me report on any aircraft accidents, of course, unless they're here, and if everybody's okay. And so when I'm looking at the aircraft, it looks like it's in pretty good stead. Doesn't look like, there's much damage at all. And so I'm assuming that because of that, no one was injured, and the pilot, if he had any passengers, that everybody's okay. So that's pretty much it. This is a shorter video. I just wanted to kind of talk about, this incident here at my home airport. And, there's certain things that we can't control in terms of, the mechanical soundness of our aircraft. But as much as we can, pilots, let's make sure we definitely dial it in. And again, I have talked to the gentleman like from across the hangar, about, this aircraft. And like I said, I don't know much about amphibious aircraft. I don't know, much about the name or type or all of that kind of stuff. Guy is a great guy, from what I've been able to discern from our short conversations. But I'm just glad that everything has turned out okay, and that the airplane doesn't appear to be, really damaged in any real serious way. The last thing that I'm going to say is this. Please, ma'am, please, sir, before you take off and you go to an airport, make sure you check the nodals, right? Again, as I have said, and I can't stress enough, anybody who will be flying right now and they would be thinking that they're going to come and land at Doylestown, that ain't happening. Because this airport is closed until at least noon. And so that is something that you should know. Also, it is pretty windy, and the wind is getting kind of shifty. And as you can see from the windsock there, it's, 2-3, but it's variable. You know what I mean? This is like 2-3 here, and you can see it's moving around pretty good. So one last look, you can see they're now just pushing the aircraft, and so it seems to be okay. It is on its landing gear. The float skids that are on the wings appear to be in good shape. I don't see anything on the wings. Both landing gear mains seem to be good. The trailing gear, or whatever you call it, the tail wheel, seems to be good. And so it just seems to be one of those things where, people are just, manually pushing it off, the runway. And as you can see in the back there, there's the motor at the top of the wings and the prop. And so it sits on top of the wings there, so that, like I said, the boat-like structure that's beneath, can, be, so all of that stuff can be above water. So yeah, so that is pretty much it there. You're gonna probably have to get the crane off. I don't know what happens in these types of things. If like then the FAA has to come out, or what kind of reporting needs to be done there. That's just not something that I am really familiar with. But I would imagine that it's going to take them some time to get the crane back off of the runway there. They'll probably have to do another sweep, of the runway itself, just to make sure everything is good. And again, like I said, I don't know what ends up happening with, the final check. So As you can see, they're taking the airplane back down to the hangars down there. Um, and I'm just glad that the airplane isn't damaged, and that the pilot is in good shape. Okay, so in the final analysis, everything is good. They've managed to get the airplane off the runway, and actually the airport is actually back open now. They are working on lifting the NOTAM in ForeFlight, and as you can hear, there's like actually airplanes beginning to go. This airplane is actually getting ready to, taxi to runway 23, and you actually can see that there's some other airplanes coming in. And so, yeah, so everything is back to normal. And I did manage to see the owner of the aircraft. Looks like everything is okay. They, bunch of FAA people around, so I didn't want to say too much or stay around too long. So anyway, since I got some time, I'm going to go in here, update my databases like I said I was going to do, and then maybe do some quick flying and get some fuel and that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Yes, people be careful. Russ Kid, Russ Can Fly, I'm out. Peace.